So this is numero tres, part 3 of Draw It Again, Fuji from Celestial Post. So if you want to see part 1 and 2, go to the links below and watch those before you watch this one. After I was done with my line work, I pulled up my color palette and I began to color in the base colors of my character. What I like to do sometimes is I like to fill in, color around the area and then fill in the character, because just coloring it in and like going in with a bigger brush stroke, it kind of time consuming. So I usually just color it around it and then highlight it with the selection tool and just, slap in that color with the fill tool. It's not that tricky. This is pretty much the easy part, I would say. The only thing is you have to have every color on a different layer so that you don't merge colors, or when you're trying to do shadow, it doesn't go into the other sections. And you can see from right here how I'm just going around and filling in some of the parts. And then after I'm done, I'll just fill it. And it's done. With the eyes, the same thing. It's just, filling in this base color so I don't have to worry about anything else later. And all I have to do is like select and do my shading, which is pretty much easy as it sounds, but it takes up enough time. Like the more time you put into your artwork, the more it's gonna pop. And with her hair, I went a little bit lighter because her hair is so dark. I cannot see the lines. And sometimes when I do the white part, like the highlights of her hair, I can't see how to, where I'm supposed to go and where I'm not supposed to go. So sometimes I have to like lower her hair. Now that I'm starting the shading, what I like to do with the shading is I will mix up my brushes. Like with the shade, I will use the pen tool and just go around her, give her nice sharp edges, and then I will go in with the foreground tool or the airbrush tool and give it more darkness or lightness that it needs, which is pretty much cool with a blend because it makes your character more 3D like. And I take it a step at a time. Like if I'm doing her skin, I'll do only her skin. If I'm doing her shoes, I would do only her shoes, so I can stay focused on one thing at a time. And with lighting, you have to know where your lighting is going to be. I was thinking it'll be on top of her. That's why you see so much shade around her. But lighting is a huge, it plays a huge part in what you're trying to accomplish with your drawing. Because if you know where your lighting is, your drawing is going to come out amazing. And even with the foreground tool, it's good enough for adding darker colors and lighter colors. So it's kind of cool when, you can go in with the dark color underneath something or on top of it and make it look more 3D like. Her clothes was pretty much hard. I will say it was tricky because I had all these folds, so I had to pay attention to every fold that I had and make sure that they coexist in the same universe. And that's how I pretty much do my shading. Cool note, I was on Cartoon Block and I did a little episode on shading your character, shading the skin of your character. And that's basically the same technique I do with everything else. So you gotta check it out. And then with her eyes, I wanted to keep it almost the same way I had it in the picture. So I have like little streaks in it, and I added highlights just to make her eyes pop. And I added more light to it. And it looked pretty good. I actually liked it. Her bruises. Now this is the way I make bruises. I take my airbrush tool, I make the bruise first, then I go ahead and use the sand brush, like it looks like a sand sparkles, and I go over that with like purple and blue, and then lower the opacity, and it makes it look like cuts. It was very, very tedious, but it came out pretty good and I liked it. So if you want to know how to make cuts, I will make a video on that. With her hair, I was thinking about doing these, stripes of her light color, but I didn't want to go through all that. So I just went over it with an airbrush tool and lightened it up. And then I went with the regular pen tool and made in her highlights, lower the opacity, and she came out perfect. So now that she's done, that's it for this episode. Next week, I'm gonna do the 4th part. I didn't know that the video was extremely long, so I have to cut it up in parts. But bear with me, it's the last episode, and I will see you next week with that episode. Thank you for watching.